What up and welcome to Rama Screen YouTube channel, and here's my review of Netflix's new limited series, Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. Let's rock this. First up, I would like to say thank you to Netflix for granting me the screeners to this entire new miniseries. They've asked me to not spill spoilers, therefore this review is spoiler free. I repeat, there are no spoilers in this video review. Now, please keep in mind that this is a prequel to Bridgerton. This is not Bridgerton Season 3. This is a story that's based on the same characters created by author Julia Quinn, but it kind of goes off on its own and takes us back to how Charlotte became the Queen of England. Obviously, Bridgerton is a show that mixes facts with fiction, mostly fiction. Well, in this case, much of the dramatization is built around the actual historical figures, King George and his wife, Queen Charlotte. Some of us are old enough to remember that 1994 movie, The Madness of King George, right? Well, think of this as the episodic version of that, but it's suggesting that his madness begins at a much younger age. Okay, now that I've given you that context, so what's my overall verdict of Queen Charlotte A Bridgerton Story? It is magnificent! I'm even bold enough to declare that this prequel miniseries is a hell of a lot better than those previous 2 seasons of Bridgerton. There's just something about this one that's extra special. The writing quality is on another level, and this is quite possibly Shonda Rhimes' best work yet. The romance is sweeping and complex. The conflict between Charlotte and George is riveting and profound. Even the supporting characters, such as young Lady Danbury, has a very substantive, fully thought out story arc, and all the subplots affect one another significantly. Yes, the production designs, the costumes, and the violin rendition of pop songs are all fabulous, just as expected from this franchise. But it's the characters, the dialogues, the performances, and the story that truly grab me and won't let go. Queen Charlotte A Bridgerton Story is yet another monumental achievement by the impeccable storytelling force that is Shonda Rhimes. Written, showrun, and executive produced by Shonda Rhimes, Queen Charlotte A Bridgerton Story centers on Queen Charlotte's rise to prominence and power. This Bridgerton-verse prequel tells the story of how the young queen's marriage to King George sparked both a great love story and a societal shift, creating the world of the town inherited by the characters in Bridgerton. So, there are a total of 6 episodes, each runs an hour long. The last 2 episodes run longer than the rest, but trust me, you will find yourselves invested in them, through and through, even if you're not generally a fan of period piece romantic drama. Because Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story has a lot of fireworks, metaphorically speaking of course, and it has a wide-ranging, captivating appeal. You'll start sitting through the first episode and you'll never want to leave. I guarantee it. Okay, basically young Charlotte came from Germany and is predestined to marry King George out of strategic alliance. And Charlotte is her own woman in that she is savvy at knowing when to speak up and push back and knowing when to withdraw and let the king be king. Much of the characterization for young Charlotte, of course, comes from the feminist sensibilities of our modern world. But it works, it works, in that it creates that dynamic between Charlotte and George that feels like 2 equally fiery, passionate people going toe-to-toe with one another. Having said that, the reveal of George's illness is gradual and measured, and there's an episode that shows his side of the story that's nicely put together. So the first few episodes draw you in by making it seem as though this marriage might be doomed to fail from the get go. You see, when the series Bridgerton first arrived 3 years ago, the character Queen Charlotte, wonderfully played by Golda Rosheuvel, immediately captured the interest of audiences because of how she was presented. The story may have been about the Bridgerton family, but everybody could not get enough of the way that Golda carried herself as Charlotte. And so, capitalizing on that through this prequel is a smart move on Shonda's part. And this miniseries goes back and forth between the past and the Regency years, where old Charlotte is frustrated that none of her children are producing heirs. In the past, the emphasis of generating an heir keeps getting pounded over and over again, putting stress on both Charlotte and George, which plays into the gender expectation in royal families that I think is very well dissected and well examined on this show. One of my favorite new characters on this one is Princess Augusta, played by Michelle Fairley. Now, Princess Augusta might come off looking like the antagonist or a control freak, but she actually has her moments. You see, she is often surrounded by a bunch of old white men looking to her for answers about the king, and she would fend them off with rapid fire responses that would use the fact that she's female as both an excuse and a strength. It's bloody brilliant, it's extraordinary, and Michelle executes it to perfection. The same goes for young Lady Danbury, powerfully played by Arsema Thomas in her TV debut. Arsema may be a newcomer, but believe you me, she totally makes her mark with this one. A memorable one, I might add. People will be buzzing about her after watching this show. Something happens that gives young Lady Danbury freedom, but simultaneously pulls the rug out from underneath her. And so her journey into fixing that situation brings about her own romantic predicament. Her story is like a prequel within a prequel, and it could have been its own standalone. It really is that interesting and irresistible. Which brings us, of course, to young Charlotte and young George. And my God, I adore the actors who play them, India and Corey. India is radiant, Corey is charming, and when they dance together in a ball, they are breathtaking. I mean, it helps that they're easy on the eyes, but their performances are also outstanding, and their on screen chemistry is off the charts. Like I said earlier, fireworks. Especially by the end of episode 5, which got me in tears. I was a mess watching that episode because your heart falls to the floor over George's health condition. And there's a scene that pretty much reaffirms what they mean to each other, not just as lovers, but also as a team who have each other's backs. Beautifully directed, beautifully performed, and it goes straight for the jugular. Thematically, there are lots of moving components in Queen Charlotte, Bridgerton Story, but they are all handled masterfully by Shonda Rhimes. And each one is given their own emotional beats that compel us to view these characters with empathetic eyes, wondering what it would have been like to not be able to express certain longing for love when so much is weighing heavy on you. And when you're blessed with such an amazing cast ensemble and an amazing crew that can create this eye-catching world, suddenly monarchy doesn't seem as tone deaf as they are today. On Bridgerton series, old Charlotte and old George, who is mentally ill, seem distant. Well, on this miniseries, not only will you get to see their love's origin story, but you will also find that their affection actually runs deeper than you previously assumed. So yeah, overall I give Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story, the rating of 4.5 out of 5. Netflix has got themselves another winner with this one. So that's it. That's my review of Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. Smash that like button, share this video with everyone you know, share your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let's rock this.